AI came into our space, it was like a relationship, sort of a start of a dating period for us, you can say. We were exploring each other, understanding how and what are our common links, and how we can come together to become a nice couple. Now, there are always interesting things you discover about each other. AI has given us an opportunity of delving into a larger landscape of how we see design in terms of silhouettes, color palettes. When we prompt it and say, give us something slightly more avant-garde but still stay in the box of the brand, it allows us to think a little bit further, which I think is important because our clients are also used to seeing things which have innovation, but a little bit further from the last season.
We were focusing on soft masculinity for the longest time because in a patriarchal society, how do you bring in another version of masculinity and bring in a sense of fairness to women, which was very feminine, very demure, very romantic at that point in time. So those were grounds of rationalizing the brand, and that's why it took us about 14-15 years to address the market that contemporary and decadent part of India is a very strong culture.
Hello and welcome to yet another episode of Fortune India's In Conversation podcast. Today, I have with me leading designers Shantnu and Nikhil Mehra. It is every Indian bride and bridegroom's dream to wear their ornate lehengas and sherwanis on their D-Day. However, the designer duo has now embarked upon their journey of becoming India's first luxury maison. From couture to pret, from niche to scale, their journey has been one of learning and unlearning. In 2019, Aditya Birla Fashion and Retail picked up a 51% stake in their company, and that's when their journey of achieving scale began. Let's find out more from the duo themselves as to how they have evolved in the past few years. Thank you, Shantanu, and thank you, Nikhil, for making it to our studio. So since we are in the AI era, I'll come to your business part later and about your journey of scale a little later. But I would like to hear from you. How are you using AI to your benefit when it comes to design?
Designers have a sense of catching the trend before it makes it. And this is a year and a half ago when, I'd be sitting down with the team and saying, AI is coming, and how are we adapting? And one of the things that we, at the core of the brand, we are always thinking of ourselves as a startup. So we're racing along with newer ideas, and AI came into our space it was like a relationship, sort of a start of a dating period for us, you can say. We were exploring each other, understanding how and what are our common links, and how we can come together to become a nice couple. Now, there are always interesting things you discover about each other. AI has given us an opportunity of delving into a larger landscape of how we see design in terms of silhouettes, color palettes. And because it knows Shantnu Nikhil the maison from the word go, its decision on what it thinks about you is a debate and yet also lovely settling conversation. We've eliminated a few processes on the way where beforehand we would make a swatch or a color palette, and then we keep working on it for days, and then finally get to a silhouette. The silhouette would be created first as a muslin and then an actual piece. And then in the end, we at times would be like, no, this is not going to work out. So all that investment had gone into the product, and then finally the product did not come out as much as we thought it would. So it's helped us to quickly visualize and come to a consensus that this can work. Also, It understands all the necklines we've done in the past for our clients and for our shows. It also understands the silhouettes we've done. So when we prompt it and say, give us something slightly more avant-garde but still stay in the box of the brand, it allows us to think a little bit further, which I think is important because our clients are also used to seeing things which have innovation, but a little bit further from the last season. We also feel an established brand over a period of time should not be making such avant-garde pieces that it loses its customers' value chain. So AI helps us keeping that balance in place.
So when you started, since how long have you been using AI?
It's been a couple of years.
Yeah,
A
it's a
year and a
recent,
half.
it's a very recent phenomenon. So a couple of years means it's a fresh start. Like Nikhil said,
That means it's only 2 seasons.
So did you have go through a phase wherein you told yourself, well, no, I'm not going to use AI?
In certain personal matters. But once you see the result and it's so close to a result of someone who would be navigating you through it. For example, if you speak to a therapist and you speak to your therapist, which is AI, you see the common links. Similarly, in design, I call it a design therapist.
yes.
So it helps me to enhance.
So it,
Not at all. In fact, we can do things faster and with a purer intent.
to be honest,
Yeah.
no, to be honest, the creative team had to be addressed, educated on it, that this is going to create efficiency and not going to take anything away from you. So in our business, when it's fashion, you have to have a very tactile approach. You cannot do anything without human interface and human instinct. So what AI does for us is, because I think that Nikhil rightly said, because there is a maison that is already sitting, the Shantnu Nikhil Mehra concept and DNA, design DNA is already sitting somewhere. It's easy to have conversations. And when you have conversations, there is a trigger effect. So whatever comes out means that you have another reason to debate till you feel that the brand clarity is right out there. And I think that's the efficiency part of it all. And I think it's over the last 7-8 months, the designers, everybody in the system has begun to understand that unless they have the clarity, they'll not be able to have a conversation with AI. So AI is actually bringing in, from my perspective, a very strong efficiency matrix into the system. And we are also extending this matrix away from just design to this whole science of retail, which is merchandising, where a part of AI is also prompting us to see which stores require what kind of merchandise and how quickly it can be rotated around. So some interesting things are happening on this front for us.
Interesting. So coming to your scaling up journey, so you've been the country's among the most respected couture designers, but like most designer labels, you also were niche for the longest time. You remain couture for the longest time. So when did you kind of realize that you need to scale up? When did that realization come? And at that point of the time, was the market really ready for it?
I think we've always been those kind of designers or the brand where we wanted to reach out to more people. The kind of India we thought from the onset was a subtle, more silhouette based, less colorful, less on the embroideries and the ornamentation. For us, it was more personality based, and SNN's birth was a natural progression. We feel it took too long, but we started incubating it in 2014 when we presented a very sartorial chic men's line. While in 2014, customers used to come in for very heavy embroidered pieces, but this line was like a new birth for them. In fact, in 2013, we did the first drape kurta for men, which was an anomaly. It was a disruption in the industry because at that point, men used to consider themselves being the men of the family, the head of the family, which again is a big conversation to have. And that was a representation. So we shifted the representation of a man. You remember at that point, metrosexual was the key word.
Yes.
That was the birth of the feminine man, the soft masculinity was born then. And I think the draped kurta started to push that revolution. So in our couture planning, SNN was always there. It just found its place in 2018 after the merger.
So if I were to, it's a very interesting question you asked, Ajita. If we were to break our couture to scale journey, I'll break it into two legs. At the very outset, we felt that there is abundance of rituals, but really no one is questioning traditionalism. Our job was to create a culture which was ahead of its time. The culture at that point in time in 1999, 2000 onwards was all about craftsmanship. The conversation of Indian culture around any art form was about craftsmanship. So, as a design DNA, Nikhil and I were very clear that we have to be ahead of that culture, which means that we have to provoke, we have to educate the audience, the media along the way, and be disruptive. So, it was a very progressive approach, a very uncomfortable part of creating culture which didn't exist outside of the craftsmanship box. Hence, what Nikhil said, the draped kurta, which came into its being in 2013, we were focusing on soft masculinity for the longest time, because in a patriarchal society, how do you bring in another version of masculinity and bring in a sense of fairness to women, which was very feminine, very demure, very romantic at that point in time. So those were grounds of rationalizing the brand. And that's why it took us about 14, 15 years to address the market that contemporary and decadent part of India is a very strong culture. While we were building it subconsciously, and we were also, little did we know that we were also shaking the market. And while we had defined the culture, which didn't exist, we then felt in 2019, maybe 2016 actually, 2 years before the merger, that I think now the culture part is aligned. Hence, we can scale, we can refine and lead certain category in terms of growth. And that's how SNN was born. And I completely agree with Nikhil that we wanted to be a fashion house that democratizes fashion.
Day one.
From day one, we wanted to also have some trickle down effect of our couture ingredients. And today also SNN has all the ingredients of couture. It had all the house codes. So we wanted to look at heritage, not being inherited, but being edited. And I think that's what led to SNN. And the biggest category growth that we felt SNN would have was the shirts. And today also 55% of our business comes from shirts, and another 5 to 6% comes for trousers. 20% comes from contemporary Indian in our SNN universe. So it is at any point not cannibalizing what Shantnu Nikhil is doing at the top. And SNCC, the Shantnu Nikhil Cricket Club, is also kind of bringing in the ingredients of SNN and creating a format where lifestyle and fashion meet and coexist harmoniously.
And this is happening naturally because SNCC is the birthplace of that came from the idea of Shantanu and I being, we've been playing cricket for many years. We played for school. In fact, I used to play cricket so I could bunk school. And thereafter, we did the Mumbai Indians jersey for 12 years. Before that, we've done a bunch of sporting events. We've always had the DNA in us. And so this was also the natural progression.
So you didn't really have to undergo a mindset change, when this whole idea, because that was always there. You'd already decided that you would be a democratic lifestyle fashion brand. So when did you first approach, ABFRL or Mr. Kumaramanglam Birla? I know when I interviewed you a few months ago, there is a story to it. So it'll be interesting to hear from you.
Yeah.
In our work, we're very blessed. We get a chance to meet a lot of leaders of the world and dress them. And we're like doctors for them because that's one area that they count on us for bettering their personality in a way. Mr. Birla called us saying that he was interested in giving us a shot. So I remember I came to Bombay. I met him in his office and I urged him to come with me to the store in Kalagura. And we spent 30 minutes in the car and we had a lovely conversation about life, about his work. I asked him when was the last time he fired someone. And he said, that's a very, it's an unusual question. People don't ask me these questions. I said, I just want to understand your personality so I can dress you better. And he said, I've never fired anyone. And it spoke a lot about his consistency. And with consistency comes color palettes and silhouettes. So we had a lovely conversation for the 30 minutes in the car. By the time we reached the store, I knew exactly what's going to work for him. At that point, our first order took 40 days, which was usually our timelines, and we delivered on time. His last order, which was, and this is still the process, which is going on till the second year. He kept testing us. First order was 40 days. Last order was 4 hours for the Prime Minister's hearing in.
That was just 4 hours.
Yes. And we got it right. And at that point, he called me back and he says, I don't know how you guys do this, but to be able to do this in 4 hours and, I have no stress because I have other things to do, I find it absolutely incredible. And so I said, it's all Shantnu. His systems are very much in place and he allows me to create so that he can deliver on time. He says, let's catch up for lunch. And that very same day, when he came back, we met him at his house in Delhi. And over lunch, Kumar is one of the most inquisitive, curious guys I've met. He kept asking us questions about how we do things. How are you doing? It is so interesting. And at the end of it, he says, what if we were to create something like a new brand? And at that point, the balloons were flying in our brains because we've been incubating SNN for years.
Yeah.
And so that's when Shantanu said, we've been thinking about SNN. He says, point blank, he says, can you design 144 pieces in the first 3 months? I said, no problem. He says, can we have it ready by August 1st? We were sitting in November, I think.
No, December, he said.
December.
We have it in
Yeah,
December.
December.
We were sitting in almost July or June.
Yeah. We had the collection ready on the 8th of December.
Yeah.
And we showed him 144 pieces. And we opened our first store on the 29th of August.
2020. In COVID.
During COVID. And so that's how it started. Just to show you the way it happened was so natural. And it was also because his love for design is right up there. He's inquisitive, curious about textiles. He's got a pretty strong textile background. And it's great fun talking to him about clothing. I still do that quite often. And now timelines are like, we know timelines. So we'll discuss it. It has to be done pretty quickly.
So it started with the test of the process to finally partnership. So we didn't know that he's testing in his subconscious mind the process of how we are engineering his orders.
I think it's also, the industry has changed quite dramatically in the past 10, 15 years, we feel. From the time when designers could not repeat a product consistently because the master would change or the patterns would not be there. I think in those 2 years, he realized that we had a system in place which meant anywhere in the world he is, if he's delivered an outfit, it would still fit him. And I think that's really key for any client. So while he saw that there are certain preconceived notions about our business that inconsistency is a part, I think then he realized that this is not happening and it's an opportunity. And SNN today with 20 stores has a large number of products. But one thing our endeavor was that we want to create the size for India. And so if I ask Shantanu, what size do you wear? I don't want him to tell me that he wears a Massimo Dutti 42 or a Prada 40. It has to be an SNN 42. And that's really our endeavor. If we can come to the point where in India, we create the size of an Indian man's waistline, then I think it's a huge accomplishment.
So when you touched upon consistency, so how did you kind of bring about that standardization? Was that a journey?
It's a humongous journey. I think while Aditya Birla Fashion and Retail Limited was already running with so many different kinds of menswear brands, so they had probably understood the market from a sizing perspective. And we, of course, understand from a shape tailoring point of view. So we had to get their headmasters and our masters to actually have uh, a school of thoughts where there was a lot of overlapping, trying to understand how does sizing, the real market work through your lens, and how does tailoring work from our perspective. So there was this whole 4-month, 5-month exercise where patterns were exchanged, new patterns, hybrid patterns were created. Some protos started to happen, approvals and disapprovals. All of these things became a masterclass of about 4 months till we actually found the right pattern.
This was also a great form of building a relationship because it was beyond Kumar now. Now it's teams. So I remember working with Master Pramod, was the head of pattern making over there, and our masters Mushahid and us guys. I'm also a pattern maker by profession. So for me, it's like dissecting a frog in a bios class. It's great fun. So we compared our pattern with 20 patterns of the world, including Dolce Gabbana, Armani, and the rest of them. And we sat between D&G and Armani. Then further on with deeper conversations, the Indian waistline came in. And that was the interesting part. We got that number right. In order for us to get our real dream come true, which we wanted to come true about the size, this is where the clincher was, that most Indian men waistline is inflated by 1.25 inches, which will continue to grow as the years pass. So this was a great exercise and we finally nailed it.
Wow.
Yeah.
So, but did you ever kind of imagine being part of such a big conglomerate? Because you were already looking at scaling up. So you must have been talking to investors.
In our subconscious minds, we knew that Nikhil always wanted every third Indian to wear an SNN. And so, in our minds, we knew that the only way we can scale up is if we have a strategic partnership. Because organically, you can only grow to only a certain
In fact,
level.
we were talking about this the other day, and it's like, do you remember when we spoke to this one gentleman who's no more in 2012 about looking at scaling? And that was then.
Yeah.
And then we just took it easy because the interest was not so much because the industry wasn't defined and nobody wanted to take a chance. But we've been preparing it for it since 2012.
We didn't want to bet on a designer.
They didn't want to bet on the industry, period. Because at that point, we did not have a large number of designers, and most of them were, we were doing one collection a year. We didn't have enough stores, so scale wasn't even in a vision. And
that's still a challenge, I feel.
Marketplace wasn't even ready.
We don't have still many Indian designers who've broken the shackles of being couturiers to branching out with different brands, looking at scale, alignment in the sense where you understand science of retail and you say, because merchandising, how you buy, why you buy, where do you open your stores, all of that is a very tedious process. So we still find it challenging. We may have a market opportunity. There's definitely a product market fit here for SNN, and that's why SNN was born. And I think Kumar rightly said that can we fast track your SNN model, because there is a great opportunity. You guys are very good at menswear, and I feel we can compete with global players. And there are so many global international brands that are sitting right next to us in our adjacencies. But unfortunately, we don't have any Indian designers still sitting in front of us, because I think that's when the market, the industry opens up. That's when Indian designers will be taken that much more seriously, because we're still competing with international brands, and you need someone to sit beside you who reciprocates with similar price positioning, certain verticals, products that are menswear heavy. You still don't have that. So it's still a challenge, to be honest. So as much as the first leg of corporatization, which was obviously a must, it had to and it should have happened, and it's rightly happened. But how many Indian designers are still coming out of their comfort zone and say, okay, we want to open 20, 30 stores, still not be fast fashion, still be very bespoke in our sense, but let's compete with some big guys. That's still not happening.
So you have, please correct me if I'm wrong, SNN is a bridge to luxury brand. So was there any, and with couture, you were playing in the luxury space clearly. So
We were playing in the ceremonial space. Now, ceremonies and bridal market, we call it luxury here, but it is the ceremonial market.
So is there any particular reason why you chose to be a bridge to luxury brand and not a luxury brand?
Because that's the new format of luxury, where
Yes, I think that in order, firstly, it's men don't have find options. Then they don't find options beyond ceremony. Further to this, they don't find options which are pocket friendly, which is uh, in a way disservice to what one would do. When you say bridge to luxury, our ASP is sitting at 22,000 rupees, which is, I think, for India is not inexpensive. It's high.
Yeah.
So bridge to luxury at $300 average would still be luxury in the States. Here in India, because the ceremonial business starts at an ASP of 1,75,000, we consider 22,000 rupee product not expensive.
Yeah.
But it's not really that the case. Now, in this ASP, we're able to scale to 20 stores. Question is, will we be able to open 50 stores? Maybe not at the moment. But if we drive the market, we will open it up for the 50th store in the next 3 or 4 years. But if we start an ASP of 65,000, which some of our
Then it becomes limited.
members in the industry have done, they will slow the process of growth for people who aspire to wear designers but are not able to buy it. What's the point of creating something beautiful but not have anyone wear it? That ties us back to our first dream of having every other Indian to wear us at least once in their lifetime. Now, it's a big commitment, and it also requires perseverance. It requires a constant flow of the client in your head and not you. We don't want to make beautiful things and not be able to move. We feel India is ready at a 22,000 ASP and will continue to grow. But if we were to start at 48 or 50,000, I think we would not be able to open more than 5 stores.
Also, when you look at the size of the market, when you look at the cultural relevance of how you are seeing a Gen Z transforming into a millennial, and what kind of products and services that you are providing, has an easier acquisition. So today, you know what, when we see a 16-year-old, 17-year-old boy wearing a shirt kurta of an SNN shirt kurta and attends a Diwali party with his parents, it's a win for us. So the new pivot is this form of luxury where there is a
It's
sense
accessible.
of inclusivity. And I think 7-8 years ago, Nikhil and I had very clearly understood that there will come a time when the younger generation, the younger urban Indian, will move away from the excess of heritage, would like to keep it, but not the excess of that. And I think SNN pretty much democratizes it because it celebrates occasions, but it's out of the ceremonial world. And that occasion can be a board meeting, can be your first anniversary. It could be anything.
In fact, we learned a lot from our sons. We got a chance to dress them up. They were demanding also. So
Yeah.
we said, go and have a look at the collection. And they would end up picking up something, which meant that we were on point. For the graduation, they wore SNN and not couture. So this mindset of New India is very critical for
Yeah.
business to run in the future. If we don't learn from the 18-year-olds who are going to their graduation, wondering, and they always wear Indian, where would they go? And we've broken the chain of their fathers saying, I'll get something made for you from our Masterji who used to come home, to going to an SNN store and picking up something last minute because you have sizes as well.
Yeah.
And move on.
So apart from scale, apart from opening up new stores, democratizing fashion, how has this partnership, what are the other synergies that you've been able to capitalize upon out of this partnership with ABF Iron?
See, it started with a very clear mandate, and I think we all understood we were all in alignment. Kumar Mangalam Birla very clearly said that we have the supply chain know-how. You guys are creatively the best that there is in the industry can be marry our supply chain with your creativity, so that you're never burdened with this whole concept of not having any bargaining power across the table when it came to purchase of fabrics, trims, accessories, the best
Manufacturing.
factories in the world that can help you align with that supply chain, because that makes your creativity process a lot more efficient. So today, SNN also is a very smooth business model for us, because all the samples and all the new designs happen at our atelier, but everything else gets outsourced as white labeling, and it goes to the MFL factories in ABFL factories across Bangalore, China, and protos and prototypes are being sent out. Once we approve, production happens, reaches the warehouse, and then it just gets distributed. This had been and still is a big challenge for many a designer.
That's true.
It's a big challenge. It's a challenge, it's a contradiction. In our industry, it's a contradiction, because many of us are still trying to find the easier way out just to cater to a bridal market where there is money. And I think Nikhil and I could have made lots and lots of money at that time, because this was a tried and tested formula. Let's create bridal lehengas, let's do some noise marketing,
Yeah.
let some celebrities wear, and let's just dress them up from day one. We have a brand and we can sell. But that was not the pivot. Till today, supply chain is a big issue. Selection of fabrics, with the clarity that you have of what you see, uh, what you want to sell. See, we started by saying that we want to sell what we want. But now, from a couture to scale, we'll sell what people need. I think that's the big shift. And to sell what people need, you have to really address the entire 360-degree wheel in terms of how that product reaches the store. And there's a lot more.
And also, it's interesting thought. What people need is the want you create.
Yeah.
So eventually, if when we make the statement, we make what people need, can throw a lot of young designers off, because they will not have an identity, because they're just making for a need. So we created the need over years, and the need came through a community we created, a culture, as you call it in today's day and age. Once we had the community / culture, we knew what they needed. And that came from the fact that they knew what they expected from us, and not that, oh, today this is in trend, so I'll pick this up. So it's a really beautiful spiritual experience between someone who buys something from you and something you make for someone. Once that connect happens, I think a lot of these unknown questions get answered automatically, and they reflect in your daily sales reports and effects in your P&Ls eventually.
So I see a lot of designers partnering with fast fashion brands, and I kind of, I find it a little confusing, because I mean, won't that dilute one's brand? Is
These-
partnering with fast fashion brand a good idea?
It depends. I mean, if you look at Jean Galliano, he's doing something with Zara at this point. Question is if it's a collaboration or is it a long-term relationship, and how much of that work of that designer would continue to be seen through their own stores, or is he pivoting? There are many questions yet to be answered. I don't know in the Indian industry what is happening in terms of young designers who may have created their own brand and now moving to a collaborative space for fast fashion. I have not heard of it. I remember Masaba did the Satyapal line 15 years ago, and that really helped her brand to grow.
No, but you see a lot of them partnering with a Zara or an H&M.
I think for a short spurt, it's really good because you're allowing consumers to get into your life. And these are mainly couturiers that you talk about, Anamika and Sabya, who did the collaboration with H&M. Couturiers doing that is fine, because a lot of consumers aspire to wear a brand, don't have the monies or can ever do it. So a small spurt allows both brands to elevate. Consumers happy at those price points. The designer's happy because he gets a global platform, and the global brand is really happy because it made something global local, and yet made it global. So that full 180 degrees really good pivot for them as well. But if it was consistent, then it's complete brand dilution.
Would you do that ever? Because you are, if I'm not mistaken, democratizing slow fashion, right? Do you see yourself getting into the fast fashion mode anytime?
I think there would be many conversations we would have before.
Yeah.
The intent, the volume, the usage of materials. How they're part of our eco and our intent system? Does it work with our house codes?
Volume is never been the DNA. Even with SNCC, there's a very strong premiumization effect. But yeah, fast fashion will probably never be who we are as a brand.
Also, I think there's a difference between volume and scale.
Yeah.
Scale isn't always equal to
Correct.
volume.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I think that we should not look at both the things together. They are very separate matters. So let's say, for example, tomorrow we did do something with an H&M. There would be more depth in design, but not necessarily depth in purchasing number of pieces or creating number of pieces, because we would want personally to satiate the need of our clients to fully feel us through the number of drops as opposed to number of pieces and the drops. Maybe we would control,
Maybe limited edition.
maybe you would control that.
Okay. So we talked about couture, we talked about SNN, and then at the beginning of the conversation, you did touch upon SNCC and how your passion for cricket kind of led to that brand. So can you just elaborate a little bit on that journey on SNCC, and where are we going? To have this. Your vision is to build a maison. So what are the other things you would be looking at getting into?
I first want to quickly tell you a story, because all three brands, Shantnu Nikhil, SNN, and SNCC, all of them have come from stories. I was playing golf once with the head of TaylorMade, which is Atit Gaur, and a German 6'4" tall German was playing with us, Andreas Gellner. He was the head of Adidas. And we had a lovely game of golf and conversation. And he says, why don't we do something as a collaboration with you guys? We've done it with Yamamoto and Stella McCartney. This was 2008.
Yeah.
And I came back. I said, Sri Shantanu, golf always pays. So he's like, what happened today? So I told him the story. He says, okay, let's fix up a meeting. The next thing you know, we're sitting with Andreas Kellner in his office, and we decided to design a range for their brand called Neo.
Yeah, Adidas Neo.
Adidas Neo was a 1,000-store business, many crores in China at that point. They wanted to launch it in India. We launched it with Deepika Padukone in 2009. Thereafter, Mrs. Ambani called, and Adidas was doing the jersey for Mumbai Indians in 2008, but Mrs. Ambani wanted to change. They threw me in the pit and said, "You will go present and create something." And when I met Mrs. Ambani in 2009 or 10, I don't remember, we had an incredible creative conversation. She was a dancer. Her aesthetics were so on point, and we created the whole look. And we continued working together for 12 years. And every year we remade the design. Mumbai Indians, and subtle changes. And I remember Sachin meeting Sachin, and Bhaji and Zach, and I first presented the jersey to them, and they wore it, and Sachin was like, I feel like I can win after wearing this. It's such a strong color palette, and this gold looks amazing. And our collaboration with Mrs. Ambani, and by that time Adidas had already left the shop. I mean, our collaboration got over and all of that happened, but our relationship with Mrs. Ambani turned into this incredible creative journey, and I really admire her. She is an incredible design skilled aesthetic person, and very forward in her headspace.
So that pretty much ignited in our heads that there is a strong opportunity of bringing the nostalgia of cricket, which is almost like a religion in this country, but how can we make it more lifestyle? So we continued to dabble with certain fabrics that were agile. The agility in what we did with some of the fabrics, even at couture, inadvertently gave birth to SNCC. And I think SNCC became an important part of SNN as an umbrella. So we gave it some space within the SNN stores, and it started to prosper, and it almost became like a 8% of the entire business in SNN, because doing some sporty lifestyle products which were not existing in the market was also a great opportunity for to acquire that customer when he walked into SNN. And today we are at the stage where SNCC, we feel, can walk on its own, can be incubated as an identity. Hence, SNCC will find its narrative in the coming few years.
So, are there any other categories? Because I see most, the fashion and lifestyle brands getting into fragrances, getting into accessories. So, what really is going to be the trajectory?
Yeah, there will be quite a few things.
I think, firstly, after opening 19 stores of SNN, stabilization is key. Consolidation and category realization, something we've really embarked on a journey that if we are good at shirts, we need to rule that business, control it, navigate it, and then throw in a category when the time is right. We've seen that because we usually have been ahead of our time, it also comes with a lot of trouble. You don't want to come first when everyone's not even started.
Yeah.
So we realized that we need to pace ourselves and bring in categories when the timing is correct. We don't feel the accessory market in this country is ready for consumption from India as much. We don't feel the fragrance market is even ready. We are not a fragrance country. We have been always exporting our best materials to France and Germany. And till the time we recognize the power we have, I don't think it'll be too early to start. And I don't think it's fair.
Yeah, the fact that we kind of pretty much incubated 3 brands and all of them are being serviced as either products to the customers, I feel fashion and clothing will definitely be the consolidation strategy. We've also launched a new brand. It's not a new brand, but a women's wear, dedicated women's wear product line at the new store that we've just launched at Dhanmil, which is also like a occasion wear version of what we do at the ceremonial side of our business. So it's also democratizing it to a point where the same bride, to feel inclusive with the brand, can come and wear her party clothes from our Dhanmil store. So that itself is another opportunity that we feel.
We're incubating it right
Yeah.
now because that's a market that we feel is going to blow up in the next 3 years. So I think Shantnu might have said it too early. We are very quiet about it. Building that ecosystem through word of mouth, which is exactly how we used to be 25 years ago. And I think that time is coming.
Quietly, we built one store, basically.
Not quite anymore. But going back to the question on accessories, I think it's important to understand that, India is good at a few things and not very good at a few things, quite a few things actually. Shoes, like we do not create women's stilettos in India. We still don't have lingerie made in India, which is a real pity. Men's shoes, forget about it. Like our lasts, they cost 25,000 rupees to make a last. And the foot shapes in India still not defined. What is the width of your center part of your foot is still not defined. So you could be making a great shoe, but may not fit the Indian foot because we still don't have the map of the Indian foot. So we still have a long way to go before we can try to own any industry or sub-industry, as you can call it. And somehow we Indians are always in a hurry to come first. But like I said, there's no point coming first if the race hasn't started.
Interesting. So I see a lot of, luxury brands coming out from small town India. You go to tier 2, tier 3 India. There are a lot of brands coming out, and they all, obviously most of them are now just have a digital presence, but they want to, the aspiration is to be a maison at some point of time. And again, you also got acquired. I think you were the first ones who got investment from a conglomerate, and after that, whole lot of designers, we saw them getting investment either from ABFRL or Reliance. So it'll be interesting to hear from you. How has the ecosystem evolved in the last, couple of years? How is the Indian luxury market from where it was, say, 5 years ago or 6 years ago?
I think Shantanu would be apt for this question to answer, but if you look at how India has changed, the market is only because India has changed. We never spoke in Hindi before, or we never applauded
We're
Hindi music.
apologetic about it, yeah.
We were still colonized to a deeper sense of our blood, our DNA. And I think in the past 6 years, especially in the past 2 years, I mean, if Diljit Dosanjh can have massive crowds coming to the stadium and Karan Aujla having stampedes and so on and so forth, it's an indication of how proud India has gotten. Today, we are at a cultural shift where we are applauding our culture. And the beauty of India culture is that every region has its own culture, which means every region has a huge luxury opportunity. And finally, we're sort of scratching still the surface. I mean, if we were to have this conversation in 5 years, you would be able to give me 10 new names and say it very clearly that these are 2,000 crore businesses all made within a year. In 5 years, that is going to happen. We will take over because culturally we are now independent. And it also has a lot to do with the political situation where we are being considered the third largest economy. These are great opportunities and they help us to grow further. Now, back to you.
No, I think luxury has seen a huge transformation. Consumption has increased. There's an appetite to consume luxury. But unfortunately, we are still sitting in a country where distribution network is still at its nascent stage. You don't have organized retail that can accommodate many of the designers who even wish to be more accessible. Yes, there is a huge digital revolution, and there are many a brand that have come up and have really started to make their presence felt on a D2C network. That's the biggest form of, I feel, transformation I have seen. But when I look at the tactile and I look at the traditional brick and mortar sort of formatting, I don't see many organically grown Indian brands coming and making and being their own. I feel that's that takes us also back, because you need to have competition. You want to enjoy and flourish in competition. Otherwise, like Nikhil said, you have to fight your battles. You have to create a market that never existed. So there is still a lot of fight still left. There is a lot of hard battles still to be fought. Having said that, tier 2 cities and tier 3 cities are, in fact, mostly tier 2 cities have huge appetite. How do we cater to them? One of the things that we've started doing is we do some very interesting pop-ups, and we remain consistent with those pop-ups in those cities. And the moment we feel that there is some data that has been acquired and we feel that there is a market, then we go ahead and say, okay, let's try and open a store, which is almost like a 2-year pilot test run that we do. And that's the only way to sort of break the mentality of just being in metros. So those are some of the battles we are fighting, because we've obviously incubated SNN and it needs to go and needs to spread itself, right? So while we'll be paving the way for many of them to come and sit in front of us, but this is interesting battle we are getting into.
I also feel that digital feedback and brick and mortar feedback are two very different things.
Yeah.
Digital consumers, they're upset, they will return the product, they'll never come back to you.
Yeah.
But brick and mortar client would come back and give you feedback and say that, my experience was not good, or if the fabric didn't work for me. If they can come back to your store to do that, means they're in love with your product. So again, I go back to relationships. Brick and mortar creates beautiful, long-lasting relationships where there is an understanding of the consumer and the creator. But digital, it's sort of Tinder. The transaction definitely will happen, but how constant or continuous is going to be is questionable. That's why you keep on hearing customer acquisition spend on digital. What we're really doing is we're dating every day through product and moving on to the next one. And that consistent feedback with the client or nurturing the client is not so much.
How often do you have these pop-ups?
These are constant. Through the year in different parts, the teams are aligned. Wherever Shantnu and I need to go and meet clients, we do that. But otherwise, the teams are fully aligned.
Because I see a huge appetite for consumption from tier 2, tier 3 India, especially when it comes to bridge to luxury and luxury brands.
Chandigarh, Ludhiana,
Yeah.
Raipur. These are some of the
Bhubaneswar
cities.
We've had some really good run, and
Look, these were some of the cities where we've gone ahead and opened stores because we were at it for 2 or 3 years trying to test the market.
Chandigarh,
Ludhiana,
Amritsar.
Ahmedabad. And there are many. There's Indore, there is Jaipur. There are many others that are sitting
Yeah.
on the threshold of being, say, why don't you come to us? So I think we are also pivoting. But yeah, there is some very good upsides to what has happened in the last 5 or 6 years. The biggest thing that happened was corporatization that was long due, because up until then, people perceived fashion designers to be a frivolous community, a community that did not go beyond what they were doing. So I think that has broken the myth, but there's still a long fight left.
So coming to the end of the discussion, but I had to ask you this question. Through the discussion, one constant line you've maintained is about having an India first strategy. At least that is what I kind of, because creating a brand for Indians, a bridge to luxury brand for Indians. So when it comes to your retail strategy, are you looking at opening stores? Are you any plans of going global?
If the world stops fighting, we can think. We've been hoping to, in the past, actually since a year, we've been focusing quite strongly in increasing our diaspora of retail stores to the Indian diaspora. I think the GCC is a very good space because the consumption also has like-minded taste.
But that's going to be later. You're first looking at penetrating into the Indian market.
Absolutely. You see, look at what is happening around the world. Geopolitical tensions. There was COVID. There's now what is happening. I feel people want to go and explore the outside world. They want to have that more. I feel the tactile experience will only get better. As much as we say there is a D2C approach, there will be death of retail. I don't think it's going to be the other way around. People will want to go out and be a part of a joyous world, because you never know what is sitting in front of us in this whole chaotic world, which is where in India there is a luxury revenge buying that always happens. COVID is a great example. What is also happening right now, I'll not be surprised that the day this starts to settle down, people would like to go out and have a larger appetite to consume. And this is where distribution, more retail outlets, more high streets. I think if we focus on that, then you have this whole revolution that is just waiting to happen when it comes to Indian brands, Indian designers growing organically and catering to a larger audience.
We would also want consumers to feel us for the first time.
Yeah.
And that feeling of the first time cannot be a swipe. Should not be a swipe. Because that's basically how you feel. We want them to feel us. So you walk into our store, it could be in Dubai, in Riyadh, in Jeddah, or wherever. But they should feel the fabric, feel the experience, feel like wearing it, and then be convinced. Then come online and keep reordering. But that first feeling should be more emotional.
It's also a very tough balance to maintain, trying to also be globally omnipresent while there is such a huge market that is thriving market willing to accept you for whatever you're doing. If a draped kurta could be accepted, and which became a nationwide phenomenon of being copied, if a gown could replace a lehenga, and this I'm talking 12, 13 years ago, a gown became a staple for a woman, for a bride who was wearing it for a reception or her engagement, which was not the norm. You can understand the velocity and the elasticity that this market is willing to accept. And I feel if you move away from that, you're doing disservice to the country that is sitting on a threshold of such a young diaspora. So for us, India definitely is the story of growth. And if we can take a little bit of that and put it to, like Nikhil said, the GCC market, which up until now was really flourishing, but the war will have its after effect. But I think that is a flourishing market as opposed to Europe and the US. So if ever we were to start looking at a global footprint, it will probably start from there.
Thank you so much for your time, and it was a pleasure chatting with you. Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much.
No, well,
Apart from their evolution from couture to becoming a maison, what really appealed to me is this designer duo's India first strategy. Even before thinking of going global, one needs to be astute in how you see your country. The day they feel that they have been successful in migrating the Indian customer from a Polo Ralph Lauren or Brooks Brothers to a S&N, would they look at going global? What do you think of this strategy? Do leave your comments in the box below.